Hey y'all, my name is Luke. I make bags and I also have a boat project going on, but today I'm here in the shop to show you how I make a drop liner duffel bag. So this is the flagship model of the duffel bags. It's the fully featured one. It's got a shoe pocket or a dirty laundry pocket underneath, an exterior zippered pocket, interior seam sealed liner, a couple interior pockets, and a big U-shaped zipper. Also involves making a set of straps, so there are quite a few pieces to this design and it takes a while to do. So let's go ahead and get everything cut out, including all the webbing we need, and get everything together in different bins so that I can start doing the assembly. All right, so I've got everything cut out now, and this is my box with my liner in here. So this is all the Dry Suit Factory scrap. This is Gore-Tex or very similar. It's got a Trico backing on there, which my seam sealing machine runs through really well. So I've got all the pieces for the liner in here ready to go. This is my bin full of all the pieces to make the strap set that I'll need. So that includes the over-the-shoulder strap as well as the backpack carry harness straps, which double as a duffel carry as well. And last but not least, in this bin, I've got all the pieces to make the exterior of the bag. So that includes this bottom panel here, which is a nylon or Cordura sandwich with Dyneema in the middle. And I've got my pocket for the dirty laundry. Everything is in here for the exterior, so let's just go over to the sewing machine and get started. All right, so we're here at my main sewing machine. I got all my bits and pieces to make the exterior here. It doesn't really matter what sub-assembly we start with. We just want to get all three sub-assemblies to the point of final assembly, so I'm starting with the exterior here. So getting my zipper pull on. This is the exterior pocket. Good to have a machine. And this is just a little scrap that I cut out while cutting all the fabrics for the exterior that I'm going to use as a zipper garage. So whenever I make a zipper garage, I think about the direction that the rain or water is going to travel down. I like to put little angles on it because it makes it fun. So I'll go ahead and line this up. Make sure to back tack there. And it does really make it nice to have needle positioning control on a advanced-ish machine like this, because then when you pause to get the zipper pull out of the way, it's nice because it doesn't pull the needle out. Okay, so this one, I'm just gonna top stitch in black for the sake of the video. Normally I would change thread color. And the reason I'm not putting binding tape here is to avoid bulk along the seams, and also this fabric like this, which is a Dyneema-like fabric, doesn't really need it. You know, it's not going to fray. So there we go. I've got my exterior pocket ready to be attached to an end panel here. But before I do that, I'm just going to baste the zipper garage in place because that'll make it easier later. So I'm just adding this volume here for the zipper to go up into. And just kind of trim that so that it looks a little cleaner. So now I have one of my end panels here for the duffel. I've got these marks on either end, and the zipper lines up just underneath the bottom mark because this is our guide for where this webbing goes. So this webbing goes along the top, or the top of the webbing lines up with the top, and I just stitch this zipper on along the bottom here. And before I really get going, I'll just get a couple stitches in place, hold it there, make sure we're going through everything we want to. And you can kind of see that the zipper pull makes the zipper coil a little wavy. So I'll just get that out of the way, flatten it back out. And this is YKK Eurotech zipper, which is a water-resistant zipper that I use on the exterior of everything, basically. And it works really well. YKK is a industry leader, obviously, and you can't really go wrong with stuff they make. I haven't had any issues, knock on wood, with people having zipper failures. Anyway, I'm just marking the middle here, and then since this is the side that ends up being the top where the backpack harness strap's attached to, I'm also going to put a little mark on either side, which I can use a little piece of this 38 millimeter webbing, 1.5 webbing to get my 3-inch spacing here. And I've got my little pieces of webbing. I'm missing one. Okay, I've got my little pieces of webbing. I've got my 1.5 or 38 mil, and that for the over the shoulder strap. So now I can stitch along the top. When I get close to the mark, I'll tuck one of these little loops in there. This is for where the carabiners attach on the backpack straps. So I don't need to back tack it in quite yet. These little loops for the over the shoulder strap goes right in the middle of that mark. And then the same thing on this side. A little loop for our backpack harness, and I'll kind of just look down the line and yep, that looks the same. When I get to the end, I'll do one stitch down, turn around, come back the other way and do a back tack over each strap. So now we've got that, but there's no grab handle yet. So the advantage of using this webbing as a backer is that no matter what repurposed, recycled material we have as the base of the backpack, we're still going to be attaching the handle to this webbing, so that makes it a lot stronger. And usually what I'll do is I'll just chalk mark, and there's going to be one on each side. So a lot of my sewing is kind of imperfect, I guess you could say, like the cardboard CAD equivalent here. We're not digitizing patterns and cutting things to perfection. We're just kind of doing it as we go along, and it ends up with a less perfect product, but I think that's okay, in my opinion. Okay, anyway, back to this duffel bag. I've got this fancier webbing. This is a Cordura webbing that's made in the US, so it's expensive stuff, but it doesn't crumple in your hand, so that when you grab a bag that's got a lot of weight in there, it's not just gonna like fold into a thinner area and then make it more uncomfortable to carry. So this is good quality webbing. Anyway, I've got it attached on one side, and now what I'll go ahead and do is go over the zipper. And as you can see, this piece, oh, why it's so much bigger? That's because this is where we add our tuck here for extra volume of the pocket. So just baste it on all the way. And then the same thing on the other side, match that fold. And then when we get up to where our zipper garage is, we can get the shape we desire. So, you know, hopefully the camera can see this, but you can make it like all the way down like that. You can make it all the way up like that. I usually do this double fold kind of thing. I don't know the word for it because I'm just making it up as I go, but here we go, and get up to the top, and then the same thing on this side, right? So just come over to this attachment point, go down, and go off. So there we go, we've got one side panel. Now it's time to do the other one that has the dirty laundry pocket in it, but this one's good to go. Actually, scratch that. It still needs some bar tacks here to make sure that you can yank on this all day and it won't come out, because it is sewn to this nice Dyneema-like fabric. This is called N-weave, but you know, this thing will be bulletproof. So let's do the other side now. So this part is kind of boring. I'll probably fast forward here because yeah, same thing. Or I could just keep talking about this fabric. This is called N-weave, and it's made by North, which is, North Sails is the biggest sail maker in the world, but they have a action sports division that does kiteboarding and wing foiling and all that kind of stuff. And this fabric they use on the leading edge of their newest kites. So it's really lightweight, really abrasion resistant. It's an ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, just like Dyneema or Spectra. All these are basically the same. They're just really strong, really light fibers that are hydrophobic, so they don't absorb any moisture. And they're really good in UV as well, so they stand up to the elements really well. And yeah, it's just really good stuff, and I was able to get a little short from them as they were first getting it started. So the only difference with this side now is that I am attaching this different hardware, these 3/4 inch slip locks, because that's what the bottom of the backpack strap's attached to. And these ones go as far out towards the edge as they can, because that's where the bottom of the straps are going to the side of the bag. Just want to leave room for seam allowance. And we'll do our same thing here and go ahead and attach this handle now. So my idea here, and I've heard it from other bag designers I admire, is that you want to leave enough room in your grab handles for someone who's wearing gloves. All right, so there's that side, also ready for bar tacks here, but before we do that, this is the zipper we're going to use to attach the dirty laundry or your shoe pocket or flip-flops or whatever you want to put in there. But we need to make that piece first. So the first step in that process is to get our 70D ripstop nylon and this little piece of EcoPack scrap that I will use as a reinforcement along this front edge of this pocket, because the zipper pull will sometimes get caught on this really thin fabric, and I want to avoid that. When zippers get really caught on something thin like this, it's really hard to get them unstuck. So to avoid that, I use this piece of thicker fabric just sewn on, top stitched on as a strip. And that way the zipper pull will not get caught. So this is just a long rectangular piece that also has some shape to it, which will add up to volume on the inside. And I just back tack here, back tack here. Once that's down, I used to use the serger on this. I don't think it really matters. Get the same result in the end. While sewing this kind of fabric on the same machine that I'm doing everything else is a little unorthodox. Industrial machines need to be tuned to the weight of the fabric they're going through. So you can see me kind of pulling it a little bit. So I back tack, and now I'm just going to sew these two edges together. And again on the other side. All right, we're good to go there. Now we've got my number 8 Eurotech water-resistant zipper. Got my pocket liner and my exterior piece. The only thing I'm missing is another little scrap for zipper garage. So I'll back tack that, and then I will search. Here we go. This is the piece of scrap that I left for myself to do this. So line these edges up. Again, back in the day, I would bind this seam after doing it, but making enough of these duffel bags, going around curves with a lot of layers, thickness, it's just better I think it's a better end product without the binding tape there. I don't think it really added much of anything, to be honest. So here I've got my zipper garage kind of in place, back tack. Sometimes it doesn't cut the thread, but it usually does. So there we go, that looks good. Now I can go ahead and top stitch over this now. I'm always just checking underneath to see if I'm catching layers I don't want to be. And I could hear that I was out of bobbin. That's just a great place to run out. You love it. You love to see it running out of bobbin on top stitching. So you could either rip all that out or just drop the needle back in one of the existing holes you have there, which is what I usually tend to do. So I'll just carefully find that hole there. And also get another bobbin winding. Not too shabby. I can clean that up with some thread snips here. And then I've got the bottom piece here. But first, let's get rid of all this junk. And now we can attach the bottom half of this. Yeah. Let's go ahead and do that before we even attach this piece, because it'll give us a chance to get our zipper garage just the way we want, which enough room for the pole. So you can see there's some extra here. That's okay. We're gonna trim it off. I do a fair amount of trimming, so the little garbage bins near the sewing machines end up with a lot of little ribbons, but that's okay. It's one of the side effects of not using CAD. So I got this bottom piece started here. That's okay, the seam allowance there is not great. It's on there, and now I'm just gonna fold the top stitch to match what I did up top, so plenty strong. That first stitch was just kind of to hold it on there and make sure we don't miss any edges of it. So there we go, that is our other end panel at the bottom, and then we might as well kind of get this in there and baste this zipper garage down. And then we can just trim all this stuff off. And I might as well get this in there too. Sometimes you inadvertently slide the zipper pull and then it comes out all the way. And it's kind of a pain to deal with, so. Okay, there we go. All right, so now we can go over to the bar tacker and get these guys. Well, actually, let's put the bottom on first. So this is our bottom panel, and again, this is a Cordura Dyneema sandwich. So there's Cordura on either side, and there's Dyneema in the middle. So we'll go ahead and put it outside face to outside face here. Width of the foot as a seam allowance. Good back tack, because it's going to have some stress on it as we sew the piece. And the same thing on the other end, good side to good side. And there we go, we've got our bottom panel with our end panels on either side. And while we're here, I'll go ahead and put a little marker with my handy dandy piece of chalk that is falling to bits right on either side. So that's where we're going to start when we put the side panels on, which is going to be pretty soon here actually. So get that center line marked. Now we can do the same thing with one of our side panels. Get the center line folded just as a reference point. Then get our label on here as the first thing. So get it in the middle, and I start in this top right corner here. And I've set my stitch length for basically everything based around these labels, and it's not catching, but it will. I have faith that bobbin will catch. There we go, it's all the way around. Now we can give ourselves a little mark for the middle. Grab our subassembly here. And which way do I do it? I do it this way. Okay, so yeah, good side to good side, bottom to bottom, middle to middle, middle out. Just like Silicon Valley, the TV show. So now I want to fold this bottom panel intersection with the side panel so that the bottom panel is the one that's going to get the abrasion. And you can do this before, you can baste them in the right orientation before you assemble them together. Makes it easier. And then just match these curves up. Match that pre-existing seam line. And these edges should match up fairly closely. There's some variability in the materials that I work with here, so sometimes the pattern, you'll see it with the lid too, we're like, yeah, okay, they've got a little bit extra here, we can trim that off. Not the end of the world. You'd rather have a little bit to trim off than not enough. So again, starting in the middle on the way out here. Oh, I should have bar tack. That's okay, I can bar tack them after this. If I was thinking straight, I would have bar tacked the handles on before doing this, but you guys got me all nervous here on video. So we'll do it before we attach the other side. So yeah, good sign is that good amount there as well. It's not going to be very noticeable, that little bit. I'll just cut a really thin sliver. So this is the bar tacker. It does, I think, 39 stitches all at once. So maybe if this was like a 100-liter super hardcore duffel, we would need to bar tack this. But, you know, at being 45 liters, there's only so much weight you can get in here. You know, 2 lines of stitching with the back tack. It's plenty for the backpack straps. Haven't had any failures to date. So, yeah, there we go. But these handles, these could get yanked on pretty well by, you know, people who are working with checked baggage or whatever. So just want to make sure that those are extra bulletproof. And now let's get the other side on here, and then we'll have our exterior subassembly good to go. So same thing, just on the other side here, I've got my other side panel, and I'll just do a little halfway mark, match that halfway mark up with this one. No need to back tack because I'm going to go back over that same stitch. Making that fold again to make sure that the more abrasion resistant bottom fabric is the one with the seam sticking out. as well as going around the curve and making sure we're not catching stuff underneath. And then last stitch line on this part. And the stiffer fabric you use on this, the more tired your forearms and fingers get. This end weave fabric that I'm using for this duffel is actually really nice for this because it's not too stiff and it's really strong and it holds the stitch nicely. And I assume it's very good in the sun as well. So anyway, here is the exterior all put together. It just needs to be flipped right side out once the liner is on there. So let's go ahead and do the last thing with an exterior pieces we need, which is combining the lid panel here and the lid zipper hinge or spine with their interior counterparts. This one I'm using this orange, which again is a dry suit factory scrap fabric. So for them, they make so many dry suits and waders and dry tops and stuff that they end up with a warehouse that has some extra rolls of stuff they don't know what to do with, and they'll get in touch with me and say, hey, we've got this colorway that we don't use anymore. It didn't quite sell like we thought it would or whatever, and it's really high quality fabric. And I like that they use bright stuff. Bright interior fabric to me just makes sense because it makes finding stuff inside here easier. Which, you know, like I'm a big fan of the Patagonia bags and their design and all that. They got really good people working there, and it makes sense that they call their duffel bags Black Hole. So it's kind of a little opposite of that here with this bright orange. And here I'm just gonna baste these two to each other to avoid any edges being missed in the final assembly. So there we go. Now we can start making the liner. All right, so the liners on these duffel bags are actually not that complicated. I just have 2 pocket pieces, 2 zippers, and the piece that connects everything in the middle. So first I'll go ahead and get some zipper pulls on here. Oh, nope, missed by a tooth. Can't have that. Can't have that. Okay, both of my number 5 regular zippers, regular as in they're not coated with anything for extra waterproofness or anything. And I buy all my zippers from YKK on a coil, which is nice because I can cut them to all the different lengths that I need for all these different applications on each bag. And what I do next is I attach these little other pieces of scrap from the interior to the ends. So there's a couple benefits of this. Mainly you reduce the bulk in the corners. And because if you have your zipper go all the way across the panel into either seam on either end, then you got to bind over that zipper, break some needles, or just make it more complicated. So, and I don't reverse over zippers anymore. I've broken enough needles, and yeah. So basically, when I bought this machine new, this is the only machine I've ever bought brand new. The guy who sold it to me, when he learned that I was reversing over zippers, he nearly slapped me. So when you have a machine expert losing his mind when you tell him that you reverse over zippers is probably a good indicator of not to do that. But anyway, so that's another reason why we have these end panels here like this. Get it in the middle, line it up, and start my seam. And before I get to the actual zipper, I'll just fold it back like a ½ centimeter or something. I don't know if it's true, if it's just psychosomatic, but I feel, you know, just in my imagination, but I feel like it reduces the stress, the strain on where that zipper and seam meets. Again, I used to run binding tape over this whole seam. It does give a nice finished look, to the bag. But honestly, I mean, I think it looks fine without it, and it reduces bulk and it reduces weight and ingredients, aka components. So that's how I do it now. That's one nice thing about not working for a big company is when I want to change the way a design works or the way the bag goes together, I just do it. So that is our pocket panel. This is our actual side panel, which is smaller. And I'll go ahead and attach it with a little bit of seam allowance, maybe about 1 centimeter or so, because there is going to be some nice binding tape joining the interior and the exterior together and giving just a little bit of space for that, for this zipper to operate better. I find works well. So again, here as I'm getting to the end, if this zipper went all the way to the edge here, then I would have to make this turn and then sew over zipper, which would then have to get seam sealed, and that's another big no-no. You'd want as few step ups or steps down, if that makes sense, like changes in thickness when you're seam taping something. You want whatever changes have to happen to be as gradual as possible. So again, this front piece here is oversized on purpose for me to add a tuck there and try to match it. Oh, I made that first one a little too big, so I'll make this one a little smaller. Make the turn, and then my second tuck to match the other one over there. And there's no point in trimming this right now because I need to do the other one first. So what else can I talk about while I do this? Yeah, I just need to make more of these videos. I know it's not for everyone, these long form making stuff videos, but some people really appreciate it, and maybe some of you just want me to shut up. So, okay. Okay, so now I've got my two side pockets here. I'm ready to connect them together with this long piece here. And when customers select the extra 2 pockets, this gets broken up again, and then another 3-dimensional pocket gets added either side here. But since I'm just making this one for a video, I'm gonna make it simple. And this time I just start at the end. When I have some bobbin in there. Oh, I need to oil those thread snips, don't I? Jeez. I usually have headphones on, listening to something while I'm working because it's entertaining, and also the machines are kind of loud, so I don't always hear everything. So I'm always trying to be inside of this basting line because otherwise it'll show up. Sometimes it's a little bit visible and it's not the end of the world. Sometimes it annoys me. Sometimes bobbins try to play games with you. Same thing on the other side. And you're probably asking, why aren't you trimming that yet? Well, because I have to trim it all before I run it through the seam tipping machine, so might as well do it all at once, innit? So again, it's just like a constant game of checking what you're about to sew over, making sure you're not going too many layers, catching something you don't want to, or getting a tuck in there that you're not planning for. And you can see on this side, this is tricot, T-R-I-C-O-T. I think it's a French word. It sounds like a French word, I don't know. But it's anything, if you have a Gore-Tex jacket or anything like that, you'll feel this like kind of blue, white-ish gray. And that's the tape that I have in the seam taping machine, and so it works great. So I'll get this trimmed up and I'll meet you over at the seam taping machine for that process. All right, so I've got the seam sealer warming up here. This nozzle's gonna swing into place and shoot hot air on this tape that comes down. You'll see it's got the same texture as that Tricot Gore-Tex we're working with here. All right, we are up to temperature. Get my piece ready. And this machine has got some finicky little bits to it. So if you see it stop for no reason, that's not me, but it's got a mind of its own sometimes. So basically got that seam nice and trimmed, and now I just put quite a bit of tension on it as I go around these corners, making sure that we're covering everything and there's no little like stray fibers or stray thread that would make this not waterproof. Yeah, this is not a submersible dry bag sort of thing that we're trying to do here, but just, you know, if you leave it sitting in a puddle, anything like that, or if you want to fill it up with ice and beverages for the day, just so that it won't leak. So as you can see, this is a pretty hand-intensive process, at least for me. I'm not great at using this seam taping machine. And I try to not waste any of it too, because this tape is made in Japan, just like this machine was. There goes the compressor kicking on. So I was kind of wrestling it. When I first got this machine years and years and years ago, I hired someone who worked at the dry suit factory just for the day, because that's what I could afford, but I just hired her to work on this machine and seam tape a bunch of stuff just so I could watch her technique. Yeah, curves, you want to make your curves as big a radius as possible, because any like kind of sharp corner or like a hard angle is going to be really tricky to seam tape. There we go. And now I'll press the other pedal. That lifts the foot up. It's just really slow, so now you just push it and boom. Now we can turn it off. All right, so now I've got my completed liner here, which is seam taped and ready to go be attached to the exterior here. And I would flip it right side out, but it actually is easier to do it when it's still inside out like this. So flip the interior inside out also. Get the seams lined up and just go ahead and attach these two. Get a couple stitches in before remembering I needed to trim that tiny little sliver off here. So really I'm just attaching the top of this exterior layer and doing it wrong because that's not the right seam that I matched up. So let's try that again. I'm glad I noticed it then. That's better. You know, the more progress you make, the more potential there is to catch some part of the whole process that you don't want to and end up with needle holes that you don't want. Always making sure those zipper pulls are out of the way. I've run over them before, and if that only breaks your needle, you're having a good day. It usually throws the machine out of time, and I am not a sewing machine repair person. And they are expensive to hire, as they should be, because it's an expertise and they deserve to be fairly compensated. It just sucks to run over a little zipper pull without any idea it's hiding under there, and then you end up with a couple $100 and a weight of not having that machine available while you're waiting for your sewing machine repair person to come over. So let's not do that. And this seam is just to hold them together. Everything is going to get stitched together again, and then binding tape over the top of it. So as long as we're catching everything. All right, so there we go. We got, oh, except for that little spot right there. Can't let that happen. Okay, so it doesn't look very pretty right now, but that's okay. It's all gonna be hidden away. So there we go. We've got our exterior attached to our interior. And now we can go ahead and start messing with the exterior zipper, the main opening zipper. So for that, let's go over to the walking foot machine, because this machine is a little light for going over number 10 zippers, and just feels more comfortable using the chunky boy. All right, so we're over here on the walking foot machine now. Make sure it's turned on. And we're getting our number 10 zipper pulls on this number 10 Eurotex zipper. One going each direction, because you want to be able to open it either way. Hi, buddy. Hank, the shop supervisor, is here checking in on me. So there we go. I got 2 zipper pulls, one facing each way, and we can go ahead and get our webbing grab loops sewn on here. And I put one twist in them. Feel like it makes it easier to grab. If you think that's a really hot take, let me know in the comments. So there's one side of it. I'll try to get my fingers out of the way so you guys can see a little bit here. So just one twist. Doesn't matter which way you twist it, because it can always be untwisted / retwisted. And once I have those guys on there, hands out of the way, I get my spine piece. This is the hinge on the back side of the bag. And I get that ready to be attached to this same spot. And when I was first developing the Drop Liner Duffle bag, I tried to make the pattern for this piece here be integrated into the back side. And it just made things a lot more complicated, a lot more difficult, and I don't think it made it any better. So just doing a zipper hinge, a little spine piece, whatever you want to call it, I think it's a good idea. So now I just turn around, going back over. There we go. So now I got the zipper exterior attached to the spine exterior with our pull there. Now I'll go over to the binding machine and run some binding tape over these ends to make it look nice. So at the binding machine now, well, it's really just a cylinder bed machine with a binding plate attachment, but you know. And that's it for now. That's all we wanted to do is get the zipper ends with a finished edge on them, and now we'll go back to our normal machine to attach this to the other assembly without falling down. There we go. Now I can see better what I'm doing. It's going to be going like this anyway the whole time. What's going on here? Oh. Making sure we're not running over any hardware we don't want to run over. Making sure we're hitting both the interior and the exterior fabric along or inside of that basting line we did earlier to attach the exterior to the interior. The number 10s are fatter, so they're harder to get under the foot sometimes. Making sure our pull tab is not getting caught under there too. Okay, so there we go. We got our zipper attached to our bottom assembly. Next is, where did my webbing pieces go? So these are the longer pieces of webbing, and these are used where the zipper goes around the radius here. Like, you know, this is gonna end up being like this with a lid attached to it. So this needs to be a grab spot for when you're opening and closing the zipper. And I found that it works best when it's kind of straddling this seam here. So I always, before attaching the top, back tack this on there really well with the loop in it again. And again, this is a hot knifed 3/4 inch webbing, so it shouldn't be fraying if it's attached in here properly. And this is, as far as I've found, best way to get reliable placement is to put the zipper on here and then see where the seam is in relation to the zipper, and then get these guys on there. Okay, so there we go. We've got everything except the lid basically here. So I'll grab my lid and my Made in the USA label, which is over here somewhere. And my Made in the USA label. Have that ready to go. And then I'll do the same thing where I will just basically eyeball. Like, okay, yeah, I probably should have little marks, you know, to make this easier, but I'm just like, okay, yeah, this corner matches up to that corner. Everything looks similar. Flip it down. Oh, I felt it slip a little bit there, so I'm just gonna do it again. Definitely don't want to mess this up. Okay, I'm just gonna send it. And right at the beginning, I'm just gonna put this Made in USA tag in here. So lining up, matching the curves. And I will do another middle out thing here, where I'll go basically to where that loop we just attached is. Quick little back tack, and then I will start around the other side. So this is another imperfect pattern situation combined with different fabrics that I use have different qualities, so different, material options for the exterior are gonna behave slightly different from each other. Sometimes the pattern matches up perfectly based on, the fabric works well with whatever used to make the pattern originally, and sometimes it's a little oversized. So to avoid having waste, I just get both of them to the same spot here. And then I open up the zipper, get the zipper pulls out of the way. And then I flip it, and then we can see really clearly, like, okay, yeah, so this particular fabric, not quite exactly the same as what I made the pattern with. So we have a little bit extra. So I'll get a couple stitches in here, and then I'll just, kind of even it out, make the turn a little earlier. See how much we've got. It's quite a bit that needs to come off. So again, this is another handmade, imperfect thing where the fabric that I used to make the pattern behaved in a slightly different way, and I'm cutting them out by hand, so there's some imperfection there. But as long as I'm making the radiuses, as close to perfect to each other as I can, should be all good. So now we're left with some extra that I'll trim off and get ready for binding here. Okay, so now we are trimmed, we're ready to do binding tape. And for this particular application, we need to start and stop the process, so we can't just, basically we're doing a circle, so we have to start and stop on it. We can't just run it through like we did earlier. So I usually try to get the start and stop area to be by the tag here, to just put everything in the same place and just go around. And with this hand here, I'm feeling, clearing the way, just making sure there's no extra bulk, there's no webbing loops. So now these grab loops are back tacked on there, sewn on there when the zipper is, and binded over top. So you could probably hang the whole bag from them when it's full, and will never tear out. So here, I'll just trim off what's not sewn down, thread out of the way. Okay, so there we go. There's the lid binded on, and now we just need to do the same thing for the bottom side. So I usually just go around the other way because it's easier. Do I? I do. I like these cylinder bed machines. I really only use it for binding because it allows you to get smaller objects around the machine. So like, it wasn't perfectly trimmed there. Like, this stuff is so thin, it's okay, it'll get folded right in. All right, so there we go. We got our binding tape on, connecting everything. Now we just need to hot knife these edges clean here, and then we're done, right? Wrong. Wrong. Still need to make the straps. So for the straps, these are dual density foam that I get die cut so that the top sheet is stiffer than the bottom sheet, and that spreads the load of the sternum strap better. And anyway, I laminate, or I have the guys laminate this fabric on the bottom side so that that's all the same no matter what exterior fabric is ordered. But since folks are ordering different types of exterior fabrics, I want to have the straps match whatever the bag is made from. So I just get a scrap piece of whatever I'm working with here and baste these two together. So this is kind of a fun little exercise of just kind of seeing if you can follow the stitch or follow the curves. Without getting any bubbles. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's gonna get trimmed and binded. And I'll do the other one on the same sheet here. So there we go. Now I can trim both of these guys out. This end weave fabric that North uses on their leading edges of their kites and wings, it's easy to cut kind of when you have really sharp scissors and once you get it going, but sometimes it's really hard to get that first initial slice into there. But these are freshly sharpened and they'll really cut anything like butter with the right angle. Okay, so now we have our set. Let's get to bar tacking. At the bar tacker table now, we've got our straps. We've got our, these are called Mako, which is just a brand name for a slip lock, or the right word for them escapes me right now, but okay, so we've got those two guys, we've got those two guys, and these two dudes. So in an attempt to have these backpack straps double as the duffel carry straps, I have this piece of webbing to get bar tacked in at the same time to do that. So I'll just show you how to do this. This machine is loud, so. Actually, while we're here, we might as well make our over-the-shoulder strap, which is a lot simpler. We just have these 1.5" swivel buckles on either end and a 1.5" slip lock in the middle. So with that sewn in there like that, just lets you adjust it like that, and then so you can make it long or short and only need one slip lock. Okay, let's get some elastic webbing on these guys and get ready to bind them. Since we're gonna be binding these guys anyway, I'll get ready to do the shoulder strap pad as well. So this is just some 1" woven elastic. Put it across here as a nice little way to hide that intersection of webbing or where the 1" webbing stops, but also as something that you can stick your sternum strap up into when it's not in use. And I put one up here as well to keep the carabiner from flapping. Just getting the webbing, this elastic webbing, in place and getting everything trimmed just makes the binding process easier. So it looks like I'll have to go get another piece of elastic webbing, but you get the idea here. For the pad on the over-the-shoulder strap, we have one piece of exterior, one piece of interior. It's going to go like this, and it's going to fold over and Velcro, right? So go ahead and attach this here with leaving room for binding tape. And this one can go on either side, it just depends how we actually attach them together. So as long as they're opposite, should work out. Yep, okay, cool. I'll go ahead and start basting them together around this corner. As I get close to the middle, this is just a piece of scrap closed cell, no set foam. I'll get it in the middle there, just a little bit of padding. Make sure it's in the middle on the other side. Tiny little tuck there, I'm not concerned. All right, and now let's go bind this and our strap set, and we're pretty much done. And just go for it, right? I'll have to fix that, but and just go straight on to the next one, trying to not waste any binding tape. Of course, this harsh corner here you got to do by hand, but and this binding attachment is not really optimized for this foam being part of the mix. Like when you order these, you send a factory or a company that makes these the tape that you're binding with, and then some samples of the shapes you're going around and the fabric you're using, and they built these custom. So I had this built for me by a company called Tennessee Attachment Corporation years ago, before I had this design and before I started making straps this way. So just kind of making it work, because, you know, they're not cheap. I think just this little piece back in the day there, you know, 10 years ago was like $500. So I imagine it's probably gone up. And here we've got our shoulder strap pad. I want to put the start and end of the binding tape where it'll be a little less visible, which is on the underside here. So it's here. Make sure it's not gonna pull the thread. I bet it's going to. Oh, no, it tried. There we go. So now I just need to clean these up, hot knife them, and do the final get together of all the strap bits. All right, so there we go. We've got our completed drop liner duffel bag. This is a medium, so the 45-liter size. It is the most popular size. I think it hits that sweet spot between, you know, a weekend trip or a longer trip. So now for the big reveal. Flipping the bag right side out. It always feels like I'm done with the order when I get the bag done, but making these straps is actually pretty time consuming, as you might have seen there if you watched all the way through. So I'll go ahead and put the pad over the top of the over the shoulder strap. So that's ready to go. We've got our sternum strap that needs to get clicked into our harness here. So there's quite a few straps on this bag, but they're detachable except for the grab handles on the end, which I find nice. I personally don't like it when bags are just dangling straps everywhere. So now I'll go ahead and get the carabiners onto the straps. It's a pretty tight little fit here, but we don't want it moving around. So anyway, that's one side of them. And I do see some little strangling threads here that are probably not being picked up on camera, but I'll get those all taken care of before the bag is actually finished. So now we can go ahead and attach these backpack style carry straps to their attachment points. There's one. And that's two. And over the shoulder strap, doesn't matter which way it's facing because this swivels, which makes carrying it a lot more comfortable as well. And then the bottom side of these guys, these are thanks to my good buddy Graham at Chilo Gear, who does alpine climbing sacks and all sorts of really fancy bags for some really high-end clients. And this is his D-clip system that he lets me use. It's nicer than like a side squeeze buckle or something, and it's really, really burly. It'll last through anything. So now I'll go ahead and zip up the bag before the final step of attaching some reflective zipper pull cords, which I have here. And these are totally unnecessary. I like it because when it's dark and you have a headlamp on or something, you can find your zipper pull really easily. I also find that it makes it a little easier to operate the zippers than just the standard metal pull that comes on these guys. So this, yeah, this was the Drop Liner Duffle Bag. It goes together fairly quickly once you've done a few of them, I guess, and I like this bag. You know, it's more time consuming to make than a simple duffel, but I feel like the features make it worthwhile, and price point is obviously something to get over, but if you guys took the time to watch how I make these, maybe that's a little bit more understandable, just including the time of development and prototyping and figuring out the best way to make these. And they're all made by yours truly here in-house and one at a time. So there's that little bit of personal touch to it. So I'll go ahead and get this sternum strap tucked up in that elastic webbing we attached earlier. And then tighten the straps down all the way. But now we can use that 1-inch webbing that we bar tacked on there as grab loops. Obviously there's nothing in the bag right now, so it's gonna kind of collapse. And there's some threads hanging out here, but hopefully it comes through over the camera there and you can see, yeah, boom, we turned that, I don't know how many pieces exactly it is, over 100 pieces into just one duffel bag that has an exterior pocket here on this side for, you know, your passport, your phone, that kind of stuff. There's a little bit of volume there, but it's just handy. And then on the other side, we have this dirty laundry pocket with tons of room. It goes the whole length of the bag, and you can pull it out and rinse it out if it gets really gross. And that zipper pull would have totally gotten caught on that ripstop nylon if we hadn't attached that other piece earlier. And then you can either release that all the way really easily to undo this U-shaped zipper. And I just have to plug the 20-liter single layer pack, the 20L SL, as a day pack because they make a really good travel set together, right? So like this duffel bag plus one of those 20-liter SLs, you unclip these straps once you get to where you're going, clip them onto your little day pack, and boom, you're ready to go. And you only need one set of backpack straps, which is a win-win because it's cheaper and it's less work for me. So anyway, that was the Drop Liner Duffel Bag. I hope it was entertaining, and thanks so much for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.